Is the man who attacked you in this room?
Yes.
Can you please point to the man who murdered your brother and 5 friends? Let the record show that the witness pointed to the defendant. A man who killed 48 people. Now, Grace, can you please describe to us what happened that night? I know it's hard for you.
Well, I don't remember much. My parents had gone out to the movies, and 5 of my friends were sleeping over. We were watching The Breakfast Club, and we were right at the part where everyone's sharing their souls when we heard a loud noise.
And then what happened?
Well, I don't really remember what happened next. There were screams and blood. I was tied up, and he had a knife to my throat. I was so scared, and then Tim came down.
It'll be okay, Grace. Tim came down to protect you, to save you.
Yes. Tim studied martial arts. He came running downstairs and tried to help me. He kicked Mr. Knox to the head 4 times, but the kicks didn't affect him at all. Mr. Knox chased after him. I heard loud noises, but I ran. I ran out the door as fast as I could. I knew I had to come and make you pay for what you did!
Thank you, Grace. No further questions, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Knox, you've elected to represent yourself. Would you care to cross-examine the witness?
As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I would. That's one hell of a story, Miss Mulberry.
Yes, it is.
Miss Mulberry, are you aware that you are the only survivor from my, what do the newspapers call it, reign of terror?
No.
And Grace, I hope you don't mind if I call you Grace. Grace, I'd like to talk about your late brother, Tim Mulberry. That is, if you're feeling up to it. Did you and he get along? Miss Mulberry?
More or less.
More or less. What do you mean by that?
Well, he's my older brother. When we were growing up, there were times we could have very well done without each other, but when it counted, we were close.
That's sweet. But I'd like to talk about Tim's martial arts abilities. How long had he been training?
Well, he started when he was in the 7th grade, so make it 9 years?
9 years. Now, in martial arts, they give out belts. And these belts have colors to signify what level they're at in their training. Am I correct on this point?
Yes, you are.
What color was Tim's belt, Grace?
The style of fighting that Tim trained in didn't believe in belts.
Is that a fact? Well, Grace, perhaps you can enlighten the court as to what style Tim spent 9 years of his life studying.
Tim studied several different styles, but his favorite was Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do, huh? Now, I've researched that specific form of fighting, and you want to know what I've learned? I learned that Jeet Kune Do was a style developed by Bruce Lee himself. Did you know that, Grace?
Yes, I did. That's why Tim studied it, because it was Bruce Lee's fighting style.
Now, I freely admit ignorance on the subject of martial arts. However, I do know who Bruce Lee is. And I was under the impression that Bruce Lee was one of the, if not the, greatest martial arts fighters of all times.
That's what Tim said.
So, I think it'd be safe to say that anybody who'd studied the fighting form of Bruce Lee for 9 years, that somebody like that could be described as someone who could defend himself pretty well. Would you describe Tim as somebody who could defend himself pretty well, Grace?
Yes, I would.
Point of fact, weren't Tim's hands registered as lethal weapons?
Yes, they were.
So that means his hands, like his feet, are actually legally considered lethal weapons, much in the same way that a gun or a knife is. Is that correct?
Yes, you are.
Yet, in your testimony just now, you said that Tim kicked me in the head 4 times and that I sustained no injury. That I took 4 lethal, Bruce Lee trained style kicks to my head and shrugged it off like it was nothing, like I was Superman or something. And then I picked up Tim, 9 years of Jeet Kune Do Mulberry, and threw him across the room. And then took this knife and proceeded to tear him limb from limb. This man, whose hands are lethal weapons...
Defense is intimidating the witness with the murder weapon.
Sustained. Mr. Knox, put down the knife.
Like there was no defense.
I don't know how you did it, but you did.
Mr. Knox, the knife!
Now, Grace, how could a human being be capable of those things that you described?
I don't know.
I don't believe that. I think you have a definite opinion on how I could have done those things. Now, I'm going to ask you again, and I want to repeat. You are still under oath. How was I able to kill your brother, Tim Mulberry, in the manner in which you described?
You're not human. I thought about it a lot, and the only thing I could figure out is that you're not human. You're a vampire, or the devil, or a monster, or a cyborg, or something like that, but you're not human.
Thank you, Grace. Oh, Grace. There is one other thing.
What?
You're right.